Hey, Miguel Dorati back here on the CRP. Thank you very much for joining us. I am joined here in the studio, so to speak, once again by Justin Nett, and that means that we are going to talk pro wrestling. Earlier today, the news came that AEW lost one of their feature fights for the All Out pay-per-view, which is just about 8 days away at this point. Jon Moxley announcing through his Twitter feed that he wasn't going to be able to perform because of a MRSA infection that had affected his elbow. And AEW stepped right in and announced formally that Pac, formerly known as Neville, will be facing Kenny Omega in the main event. So they patched their fight card right back up. But to me, the loss of Moxley is big. Justin, I'll turn it over to you to give us some of the details on this late-breaking news.
Sure. Well, it was announced that Jon Moxley has a case of MRSA, which is a type of staph infection that most antibiotics don't treat. There are 3 or 4 different kinds of antibiotics you can try, or you got to get it cut out. As we know, CM Punk had a big staph infection on his back that had to be cut out too, due to a MRSA infection from a wrestling ring. As far as the location of it, it's in his bursa sac, which is the very point of the elbow, right there. And I'm assuming he's going to have to get it cut out. It takes about 10 days to incubate into full-blown staph. So I'm hoping they caught it in time. I'm assuming he did say he was going to be back by the debut on TV. And his last tweet that I seen, basically just said, "This effing sucks," which for Jon Moxley, I completely agree. It probably really does suck because this was his chance to main event a non-WWE show on pay-per-view and really show the world just who Jon Moxley is.
Yeah, it definitely, from the fan perspective, I think, Moxley, especially, through his work with Dean Ambrose and stuff, and then, for guys like you who known him from the indie scene before, Moxley may be one of the top 5 hottest names in wrestling, over the last few years, And, as good as Pac is in the ring, I don't think we're going to get a lesser quality match with Pac against Omega. But the bottom line is they lost a lot of star power.
I completely agree. But having Pac come in as the replacement, I think it's a good replacement. I'm not very high on Pac. I mean, I do love his high fly. He is very crisp and clean in the ring, which is something I don't really think translated over to the mainstream audience in WWE. I think it kind of got old to them seeing week in and week out the same backflip, front flips, twists, and turns. I'm actually excited to see a newer, more bastardized Pac. I know he was the Dragon Gate champion for about 229 days. He didn't lose at all in those 229 days, including matches outside of Dragon Gate, which actually prevented him from working, I believe it was the All In show earlier this year or last year for AEW. So I'm pretty excited to see what happens with Pac and Omega.
Yeah, we mentioned in the ring, I don't think that they lost much. They lost to Moxley. Now, Moxley hoping to come back then for October. At least that's what he said, in his return and stuff. But, we'll see what happens there because with his character, he can come back, and basically do just about anything. Now, again, with Pac and Omega, now, how are the matchups look like, if Pac wins that fight? Does Pac versus Adam Page intrigue you? That could be an intriguing match that actually got some heat in the Indies, as they already did it once, so to speak. And I wanted to ask you too a little bit more about Pac's personality on the indie circuit, where he's been a heel, I believe, obviously, and using the nickname of the Bastard, which as you pointed out, bastardized version. He's a little more edgy and stuff. And again, when you get a precise guy like that, I think we'll get good in ring action. Go ahead and take it away. What are your overall impressions on all
that? I completely agree. It is cool to see him as a more bastardized heel, only because he likes to play the crowd and he's very good at it. I know there's a couple of times where people are going to think he's going to do a crazy flip over the top rope to the outside, and he stops and just flips him off and then goes to the outside and kicks the guy instead. Guy knows how to play a good heel. I'm 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 a little hesitant. I don't really want to see another Hangman and Pac. I mean, I know their match didn't actually really happen like it was supposed to due to the Dragon Gate Championship. So I mean, they do have a little bit of a build already in it, but and then I don't want to see Pac and Jericho either because that's way different sides of the style board as far as wrestling goes. When you have Pac with the high fly, and I think he would just overshadow Jericho, to be honest with you, in the ring.
Yeah, and to me, it looks like, I would list Omega as the favorite heading into the fight. Although with a guy like Pac coming in, I don't know, maybe does the negotiations get to be to the point where it's like, no, I don't want to take a loss my first time in. A guy like Pac, who's a recent champion, maybe trying to protect his reputation. And then I want to ask you, on the indie circuit, how often does this happen where they lose a main event? I mean, obviously it could always happen, but this is unusual to be in the wrestling world, is it not?
I think so. I don't recall the last time something has happened so close to show day where they had to switch possibly the biggest match on the card, which is for your championship. I mean, or not for your championship, for your number one contendership for your championship. Um, However, this is one of the drawbacks of guys working outside of AEW as well as working in AEW. A lot of the guys signed with AEW because they wanted lighter schedules, but yet they're still working indies when they're not working for AEW. So, in all reality, they've actually increased their workload, which, this might be where AEW says, all right, if you're signed with us, you're just going to work us and that's it, or limited indie dates.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, there's a progression that comes with the business, and AEW with the newness and bringing in people with the feel good atmosphere that they presented. Eventually, they are going to have to face this, and maybe it's a good thing that it came on early in their run here that they actually get this diversion or problem with their main event, because once you get 6 or 7 shows in and nothing's gone wrong, then it becomes kind of harder to replace it. So I think they overall did a good job. Now, have Omega and Pac worked together? Do we know if this is going to be a repeat of any type of action that we've seen in the past?
From my recollection, I did a quick just 2 minute scan. Normally YouTube's my best friend when it comes to wrestling matches because somebody made a highlight of every single match that's ever been with famous people in it. But I didn't see anything. I can't say if it didn't happen where it was a 6-man tag with Omega and the Bucks against Pac and 2 other people somewhere in England or Japan. I couldn't find anything.
Very interesting. And so we have a fresh match there. And I also noticed during our first conversation, which we reviewed the entire card for the AEW pay-per-view, All Out, this coming up on August 31st here. And we did miss one of the undercard matches. And I don't know, you want to get into that one right now? How you feeling about that?
Private Party against Jack Evans and Helico. That's going to be another high flying match. They're 2 teams that are on the come up in tag team wrestling. Private Party is amazingly good in the ring, and I'm really excited to actually see them against the Bucks at the very first episode of TV.
Exactly, and because that fight's already sort of been signed as well, Angelico and Jack Evans are probably going to come into this one as big underdogs, if anyone's looking at it from that respect. But talk a little bit about them as a team for somebody that doesn't know them. What does Angelico and Jack Evans bring to this?
Well, Jack Evans and Helico they're very crisp together as a team. A little sloppy in some of their high flying moves. There is definitely room to improve, But Jack Evans, if that name sounds familiar, he used to wrestle on Wrestling Society X, which was the MTV wrestling show back in the early 2000s. Um, and he's definitely a big veteran in the ring. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing more of him in AEW. I'm not too familiar with Angelico as much, so I'm gonna have to do some research here before the next time we talk, and especially if we do a all out post show, I will definitely want to bring a little more knowledge about Angelico to the table.
Terrific. And this has been a quick recap. We wanted to delve into the news of Jon Moxley being out and AEW's quick announcement and recovery that Pac has stepped in to face Kenny Omega this October 31st at the All Out at the big pay-per-view that they've got scheduled here. So still all systems are go for it. Jon Moxley obviously very disappointed, and we will definitely be looking forward to seeing how he returns on the October TV show. Just any final words?
Well, I guess maybe Pac was supposed to be the surprise after the original match, so now we can only count on one person really to save the show at the end. Please save us, Punk. Save us, Punk.
I know a lot of people feel the same way, and definitely all out. We're heading into this pay-per-view that expecting some surprises. So we'll see what AEW comes up with. Justin, always a pleasure talking, and we'll catch up with you here maybe before the pay-per-view, but definitely afterwards.
Sounds good, brother.
Take it easy.